Welcome to the Homefront Podcast. Each month, Andrew Brock, President and CEO of Home Ventures, a leading prop tech investment firm, sits down with industry movers and shakers to uncover how technology transforms community living. We explore cutting-edge trends, innovative solutions, and future advancements that impact homeowners, community members, and HOA professionals. Join us as we decode the digital revolution. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the Homefront Podcast. I'm Andrew Brock, your host. We are thrilled to have you today. We have an absolute technological giant with us today. I'm just going to read you a few bullet points about him. The MIT Sloan School of Business has awarded him their CIO Leadership Award. CIO.com has put him in their CIO Hall of Fame. The Asian American Business Development Council has named him one of the outstanding 50 Asian Americans in Business Award. And Forbes has named him one of the top 50 CIOs. He's been a management consultant, the CEO of a technology startup, a chief information and digital officer, board member of many companies and nonprofits, and most recently spent the last 4 years with the $300 billion auto giant Toyota as Chief Innovation and Digital Officer of Toyota Financial Services. We are thrilled to welcome and have today on the Homefront my good friend, Vipin Gupta.
Thank you, Andrew, for inviting me to this conversation. I'm really looking forward to this.
It's fantastic to have you, and it's great to see you. Great to catch up. Vipin and I, we've known each other for about 5 years or so, I guess.
That's right.
And just super excited to share your story with our listeners today. You have a fantastic story, not only throughout your life, but also in the business world and the things you're doing now. But since most people know the name Toyota, maybe we start there a little bit. Talk about the unbelievable role you had at Toyota Financial Services and some of the things you're working on while you were there.
Oh, thank you. This is Toyota was an absolutely amazing opportunity that I got about 6 years back. At the time, we were in Cleveland, Ohio. I was CIO for one of the largest business units of KeyBank. Yeah. And I got this opportunity here to lead the financial services organization for the Toyota brand and be their Chief Information Officer. So when I joined Toyota, so first of all, when I first heard about this opportunity, I said, I don't really know anything about automotive.
Yeah.
All I know is financial services. That's all I have done all of my years.
Right.
And then they explained that this is not really the manufacturing side of the business. This is really about the financial services side of the business. I said, okay, that's exciting. So not only that I'll bring what I've done in financial services, but I get to learn about automotive.
Yeah.
For me, that was huge motivation.
Yeah. So
I arrived here in Toyota at the time, in Toyota Financial Services business, 2018.
Okay.
Is the time. If you really think about it, what was going on at the time, Toyota as an organization, we had declared that we are not just an automotive company, we are going to be a mobility company, which basically means it's not just about manufacturing or buying and selling or building and selling cars. It is about really the underlying purpose of moving people and material from point A to point B safely, right? Which was big because that meant it is just not about products. It's about services as well. Big shift.
Right? And experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Experience as well. And the second thing that was going on was in financial services. Financial services was going through a massive digital revolution, I would call it. And we were being, in some cases, outcompeted by fintechs at the time. But most of the financial services organizations were trying to be digitally native. Because if you really think about it, in financial services, we don't manufacture products, right? Our processes, our experiences, our policies are our products, right? Yeah. And they are largely digital. So digital was a big piece of the future of that business, right? And on the technology front, if you remember at the time what was going on, most of these organizations, most of the software companies for moving into as a service model.
Yep.
Which is a big shift from giving you the software on a kind of disk or in some other form to now an as a service, which is a multi-tenant architecture where all of us, like Salesforce.com is one example, where multiple companies are using the same infrastructure, but within the context of their own tenancy. So if you take these three ideas, and here I'm coming in with this opportunity to lead this organization, and with a large question that this organization had in mind, okay, what is our role in digital at the time? Right? So with that kind of a background, we kind of stepped back a little bit. We said, okay, there are two ways to approach this. A traditional way to approach this is to start with the current state and say, okay, what can I do to improve what I have? Which is a very, very traditional way of doing kind of your planning. What, in a way, I challenged was, what if we define what it should be, what the future will look like, and what kind of future do we want to build if we were to start this company today, as if we were born today? How will we design this business? Let's define that and then work backwards from there. And then ask the question, what's coming in our way to get there? And then the third question would be, what do we have that can help us get there? So it just changes the way you really think about the strategic planning.
It seems so, it may have been at the time, but just listening to those bullet points makes me think, oh my gosh, to a certain extent, that must have been really overwhelming because it's a very large company in a regulated industry. My guess is you had tons of technology and process and people who were all kind of entrenched and ingrained in the way things are and dreaming up the future and then mapping the path forward. It's fun, but the concept of the change moment had to be daunting.
Absolutely. I think so. So you're absolutely right. And just to give you, put things in perspective, before I had joined, and like most large financial services institutions, they've been trying to upgrade their systems, the core systems, for over many years. And it's the same thing for us at Toyota. We were not successful on those kind of upgrades and those kind of modernization efforts. There was a little bit of that history. And then here we had this big ambition to really change the business and redefine our business, possibly in this digital world. So we kind of had two paths from here. Do we want to just continue to modernize our way to that, or do we want to rebuild ourselves completely to get to the future?
And, this is, Vipin, in the real estate market, real estate services market right now, it is really kind of, from an industry standpoint, at that point where management company owners are thinking, gosh, do I re-architect and redesign and kind of iterate from where I'm at now, or grab a hold of a new vision for the future and work my way backwards? Which one did you choose?
Obviously the latter, which is to start from the future. So let's define what it will be if we were born today, right? In this digital context, in this kind of AI data-driven context, what would that business look like? If we all get together now, how will we design it? Right? So what will that look like? And then we figure out how do we get there, or what's coming in our way, which is also important. Instead of saying, how do we get there? We made an assumption that we can get there. All we have to do is to just remove the impediments that are coming in the way, right? Logically speaking. So in the question, just to give you, put this in context and as an example, and which will be very relevant for your industry as well, is what we said was for Toyota Financial Services, which was a very robust business, a business that has been growing continuously for over 30 years, right, through good times and bad times. We realized that we have built this really strong business. What if we take this business and not limit ourselves to only Toyota and Lexus? Right? What if we take this business and create a platform that any other automaker can use to run their financial services on the same platform?
Using decades of expertise that you had built and refined, in the Toyota environment of continuous improvement
Yeah.
to be one of the best, can you then spin it out and help others get there too?
Yeah. So the idea of, and so this was a concept that we had in the past. We have tried it, this idea of private label, right? Where we can invite other automakers to run their captive finance on our business. But now the underlying challenge here was that to do that, while we had the operations in place, we didn't have the right technology infrastructure in place. Right? How do we do it? And so again, we had this choice that do we take this existing infrastructure, which we haven't tried really hard over a decade now, have not been able to modernize, or do we just build completely new, using all the modern technologies with the modern architecture that is designed for the future, which is data and AI driven? Right. So we obviously chose the second path, which is to build completely from ground up. When I say completely from ground up, literally everything, not a single system from the old will be used here. So we just kind of stopped working on modernization of legacy and started working on building the system from ground up, starting from the most core of the core system, which is accounting system. Right? And you start working back up from there. But you design it for a business that is platform oriented, which basically means it will have multiple tenants. It'll have multiple other companies.
Right.
And each company exists independently without ever sharing their data.
Yeah.
It needed a different architecture. And something like this has not been really done at the enterprise scale. We're talking about hundreds of systems, as you said.
Yes.
To all be built that way and to be all connected that way.
Yeah.
And to be designed so that they can feed this big analytics engine that we want to build for the future AI. And to do it all in the cloud. Right? It was all done. This was the best way to actually modernize the infrastructure and the fastest way to get there. So that's what we did.
And how fast did the board want it? 18 months?
Yeah, actually.
How much time did they give you?
So it is. So we'll talk about that. I think the time, just to put this in context, our first partner was Mazda. And we signed a contract with Mazda. This was around August of 2019. Right. And we launched Mazda's financial services business on 1st of April of 2020, just in 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a whole story about what really, really drove that, because we're talking about many systems, all to be integrated, all to be launched at the same time. So if we go back a little bit, when we started to think about this, we had this idea of what this new business model will look like. We now have this idea of, okay, what this technology transformation will look like. But one of the things that I realized, and over the years of doing this, realize I think what we always or most of the times miss is we are modernizing business, we are modernizing technology, but we miss to modernize our behaviors.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And so when I looked at all the past failures, it wasn't because technology or business or other things. It was really our behaviors that come in our way, which is one of the biggest impediments. And I believe the biggest competitive advantage for any business, whether you're a large Toyota business or type business or a small, medium-sized businesses, the biggest competitive advantage is our ability to change continuously, because the world's constantly changing. It's always uncertain. So our ability to adapt and quickly is our biggest competitive advantage. Now, the question then becomes, why are we not able to change continuously and frequently? And I believe the answer in most cases is not in lack of technology, not in lack of funding for this, or not in lack of ideas. It is really in our behaviors. And one of the behaviors, for example, that there were many behaviors, but one of them, which to me was the signature behavior that really changed the game for us, was ability to make cross-functional decisions. See, we are all good at making decisions ourselves or within our own silo in an organization.
Right.
But what happens in this particular case is when you're building a completely new set of platform, a completely new processes, not only that, on a day-to-day basis, any technology, projects, programs, or operations need cross-functional decisions. Because technology runs through all departments of the organization.
That's right. Yeah.
So ability to make those cross-functional decisions or inability to make that cross-functional decision is the biggest reason for friction, slowness, and I would also say waste in terms of money and time.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I started to call it as a decision waste. Right. And so this is where I am into it. I'm learning about automotive. Right.
Yeah, sure.
And then part of that was in first 6 months or so, I also visited a factory. I go there, and one of the big ahas was when I looked at the process of how the cars were being assembled. And I really got like I immersed myself into this whole thing called Toyota Production System.
Yeah.
And so Toyota Production System is, think about it, broadly speaking, a set of principles and methods and a bit of a playbook which describes how you manufacture anything, but cars in this case, at an industrial scale.
Yeah.
Right? It is what general public will know as lean manufacturing, a lot of these concepts.
Yeah.
And one of the key elements in the lean manufacturing is waste management.
Right.
It comes through either just in time or other methods of waste management. So the question is, how do you apply those same principles, same methods from manufacturing into management? And if you think of your work as flow, then your question is, where is the waste?
Oh gosh, you're wading into dangerous territory there, Vipin.
So then you find the biggest waste in most organizations, small or big, is really, at the heart of that is the ability of that organization to make decisions collectively. And think about it, the waste is not only in the delay in making decisions, it has an impact, it's a cascading impact. If you delay something, that has an impact on go-to-market timing, etc.
Yeah.
It could be, in some cases, billions of dollars, if depending on the size of the organization. But what if you can fix that? So it is going to remove the friction. So to get something done in 7 months in that kind of an organization, and to really remove every possible waste and friction out of decision making. So that means like we have to change the behaviors. The question is, how do you change behaviors of a large organization like this? And
an alcohol cart.
Yes.
I don't know. That might change them in the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah. But the point is, something like this, what I'll call is you need some physical or tangible ways to kind of change the behaviors. Like you put these methods and techniques in place where everyone starts to behave in a certain way. So the key is we focus on something called decisions, right? So think about it this way. Whenever we're manufacturing anything, right? So typically a very simple concept in lean manufacturing is that we should not have material inventory.
Sure.
Right? Inventory of material, because that's a waste. So in context of management, any decision that is not being made is collecting. It's like it's increasing the inventory of decisions to be made. And higher the inventory of decisions means more waste.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now the question becomes, how do you know what your inventory is? As a leader of your organization, I think most of the leaders will say, if I know what decisions are waiting because of me, I will solve it right now.
Yeah.
I just need to know what those are.
Yeah.
Right. So now you have to create these methods and techniques where from bottom-led organization, where you start to expose the decisions to be made. And more we expose these decisions to be made, more they will solve it or resolve it. And more they resolve it, lower the inventory means less waste and things are going to move faster.
You know, I'm fascinated by this because I'm reminded of a comment Charlie Feld made a couple of years ago to me. And it was, Andrew, from a technology standpoint, anything's possible. The tech part is the easy part. And, you know, sometimes it doesn't feel easy when you're building it, right? But you're right. The building of the tech is one component of it. The much larger piece is people.
Yeah.
People, the way they think, our teams, their capacity to learn, their capacity to adapt, the organization's culture to allow for that. It doesn't surprise me that that's where you went, but sometimes, I'm like, oh yeah, of course.
It is.
It's a massive technological transformation. It's all about people.
It is all about people. The human element is absolutely at the heart of all this, right?
Yeah.
So we can solve a lot of these other problems, as you rightly said. We can design business models. We can come up with all technologies. Technology typically is not the issue. I'll even go to the extent that sometimes our partners and vendors are not the issue. It is really our own behaviors, the human element that comes in the way. And so the question then becomes, how do you shape those behaviors? And the moment you shape those behaviors, things start to happen. Like, it is amazing. If we give freedom to the people to do, I think people really crave, we all crave for two things, I believe. One is autonomy, the freedom. The second is being valued for what we bring to the table.
Yeah.
Right? If we can create those methods and techniques by which they feel that way, which is in this case, I'll give you an example. We organized all the teams around what we call as digital factories. They were fixed size teams, and they had clear leadership, 2 individuals who will co-lead that factory. And they were given complete freedom to say, you decide what this factory is going to build based on the forced rank, if you will, the items of the feature functions for that particular product, right?
Yeah.
So if you allow them the freedom to make the decision within the framework, right, it just suddenly changes the game. Because I'll give you, actually, the inspiration for this came in Toyota factories, or any factory nowadays, because a lot of other companies and organizations have learned from Toyota. If you go to a typical assembly plant, when the kind of think about the car's frame is moving along the assembly line, there is a rope, or used to be a rope. Nowadays it's electronic, but think of it as a rope. And so any factory worker, when the frame comes to at your station and you have to kind of add your part, and for some reason, if you see any issue there, or some other issue, like part is missing or something happens, or you see a quality issue in the car, you basically pull this rope. It's called and-on cord. And so as soon as you pull that, kind of the entire assembly line stops.
Yeah.
So think about this. A factory worker has been given the power to stop the production of the car because he or she saw an issue. Right? So what happens in the moment is actually even more interesting, because that and-on is a technique or a method, but to shape certain behaviors. So here's the behavior. The first behavior was, I now own the quality.
Yeah.
Before it moves to the next step, I own the quality.
That's right.
Right? The ownership of quality. Second is the supervisor immediately comes, and he or she will thank the person first.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, because otherwise a poor quality part or a car would have progressed further. And second, then they'll discuss how to solve it. And the third thing is, supervisor doesn't fix it. The worker fixes it. There's a learning going on right in the moment. And learning both ways. Supervisor is connected to what's happening on the ground.
Yeah.
And the worker is learning about how to fix the issue before it moves forward. So you can see this is just one technique of pulling the rope. But it's not about pulling the rope, and it's not even about stopping the factory floor. It is about the behaviors that it shapes, the ownership of quality. That's the reason why Toyota cars are so reliable, dependable.
Yes.
Right? These are the kind of behaviors that will change the game. Now, it's one factory worker. There are many factories around the world. It's happening everywhere. Every worker is empowered to do this. Now you can see why this works at scale. It can work at small scale, larger scale.
Yeah.
But that's why you can consistently produce high quality products.
Yeah, and I love the example. That example though is embedded in a company whose culture is all about quality. And I've certainly heard the stories of the strength of the culture, and some of that even comes from the Japanese culture of doing things together. Did you have that type of culture in your technology organization when you moved into that role, or did you have to create it or encourage its growth?
Yeah, it was more we had to create it, right? And that was another interesting piece. as I described, I was from outside the automotive industry.
That's right.
I was from outside of Toyota because Toyota leaders largely groom and grow within the Toyota organization.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those few that...
That's another podcast. I'd love to double click on some of that, but
And I was invited from outside, right? So all this actually, in a way, became an asset for me because, one, I was curious about how cars are manufactured, and then suddenly I see parallels in the process and those methods and techniques, and not only how to apply it in the software products, but also how to apply in the management behaviors. So start seeing that. And then I also realized some of those practices have not been really transferred into the culture or the behaviors in our IT organization, as an example. And when I say IT organization, it's really all the aspects of the organization related to IT.
Sure.
Sometimes we think it's like IT is a silo. No, a lot of the parts of the organization touch IT. And these are the techniques that's when we started to build a completely new set of structure, where we created these digital factories. Then we created a set of new routines where what is that they will do daily, and we started to create some consistency of practices. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, we created a simple routine, and it is simple, but it's actually quite, it was difficult to implement, was to bring entire organization, the top leadership, in one room to discuss about all the different impediments that these factories are facing, right? It is just a different way of kind of exposing the decision inventory in front of the top leadership with this fundamental idea that if we can't make decisions in this room, there's no place else to go.
Just in talking to you before we actually got started today, you mentioned something to me that I feel is absolutely valid, which is the behaviors and patterns of decision-making within an organization start at the top.
Yeah.
And either in things we model or things we allow. And so the fact that you had a strategic and an intentional path to influence culture by starting first with your leadership team, I think that's pretty powerful.
And part of this is speed of the boss is speed of the team.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that a lot of this siloed structure and siloed decision-making really is a reflection of the behaviors of the people like us who are sitting in the C-suite.
Yeah.
Right? That is what everyone, because we are comfortable making decisions within our own silos. Right?
That's great.
So here now we bring everyone together, but you do it along with the next layer of the organization. Right? So yes, that meant a meeting which had about 60 or 70 people, but it was very, very effective. Instead of having multiple committees and multiple discussions happening within silos or within layers, here we are trying to connect all the silos. So you can't get rid of silos. Silos are always going to be there. But how do you connect the silos into what I call as a simultaneous dialogue? Everyone has to talk about the problem simultaneously. And then you collapse the layers. You bring the layers together. Then you create this kind of a magical moment where all the decisions, impediments are getting exposed. And which is great because think about it this way. When we asked the question, we really did not have these big status reports. It was a very simple question in the meeting. Bring and tell us what is coming your way to accomplish the goal that has been established. Just let us know the impediments, and then we get into why. Yeah. And then we make the decisions. So to me, I think it's a really important and profound question to ask every time, or to our team members, what's coming in your way?
Yeah.
Because what it does is it actually puts trust in them. They think, I know you can get it done if I can remove the impediment for you. And then naturally, it puts the leader in an interesting position because it really makes them servant leader. Because all they're doing is, okay, my job is, I am a servant. I'm going to remove the impediment from your way.
Yeah.
So it's a slight shift, but it has a profound impact because it empowers and puts the trust in the people who are doing, and the decision makers become servant leaders. Right? And to happen this in a simultaneously across all functions of the organization creates a third thing, which is very interesting, which is this empathy for each other. So say if you are, say, from call center, and I'm, say, from a treasury management, totally two different functions in a financial organization. Very rarely will we be talking to each other. You will have your own issues, you're resolving it, I'm resolving it, issues in my own little world. And here, when you sit, all these functions are together, if the call center individual raises an issue, and it starts to sound just like my issue. Mm-hmm. And I start to feel like, oh, there's no magic in other department or other side, they're all like me.
Yeah.
And in the process, I'm learning about call center is learning about treasury management. And this knowledge starts to create, and then you start to know really more about the business.
Yeah.
Which is, going back to Charlie's comment, it is not just about knowing technology. You really need to understand the business.
Yeah.
How this machine works, right, holistically. And it is very rare to see the entire machine in action at the same time. And here we were doing this every week, right? So we really, it's not just about, say, let's bust the silos. Idea is to let's bring the silos together.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of silos.
Well, and in this age of, constant innovation, rapid change, uncertainty, I'm guessing you would say there's no more important thing for companies to focus on right now than getting this right.
That's right. I think again, going back to the point, the biggest competitive advantage, I really believe, small or large, it doesn't matter what size company you are, is your ability to change. And your ability to change continuously, frequently, again and again and again and again. It's not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the question is, you have to step back as say, senior leaders in the organization. What is coming in our way to us to have this ability to change continuously? And be really, really honest. And more importantly, look at the behaviors. We talk about culture. Culture is really a reflection of our behaviors, right? What behaviors are coming in the way? And I believe you will find in any organization, if you really honestly look at it, you will find a big pocket of waste caused by inability to make cross-functional decisions.
Yeah.
And the day you solve that, you have at least taken care of one big waste in your organization. And I think, to me, yes, you're right. It doesn't matter what size the company it is. I think this is definitely one of those behaviors that can make a big impact in the trajectory of the companies. And we saw that in Toyota Financial. We saw the results were amazing.
Yeah.
I think when Mazda Financial Services, they had absolutely amazing outcomes. And then Toyota, it was a win-win for Toyota as well as for Mazda. And then later on, Bass Pro Financial Services was also added to the platform.
That's fantastic. Your vision came true.
It did.
Well, listen, it's been fantastic having you here today. Vipin Gupta, everyone. Really, thank you so much for your time. There's no better time to get started on the technology journey than now. And the only way through it is a mindset of continuous change and getting everyone in the same room and cross-functional decision-making. Did you trademark that before you came on here?
No, not yet.
You're going to race home and do that? Thank you so much for being here. It's been fantastic having you.
Thank you, Andrew. This is a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We want to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or topic suggestions, contact us at contact@thehomefront.com. And be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram at The Homefront Podcast for exciting news, updates, and announcements.